Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today I want to show you how I'm building a set of spiral stairs for a deck. It's very complicated and it's very time consuming, so we might not get through all of it, but I'll get a good explanation going. If you like what you see, please don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon every time you want to be notified of future updates. Also, don't forget to check out Dr. Decks Masterclass. All right, let's get into this. Basically what you see here are a bunch of pre-made boxes. And I had to figure out the inside radius and the outside radius of the staircase to be able to figure out our spiral. So I knew that the outside radius was 9 feet and our staircase is 4'6" wide. So the inside radius would then also be 4'6". So the outside is 9 feet minus 4'6" gives us a 4'6" radius on the inside of the staircase. So then I plugged all that into an online spiral staircase calculator and came up with the size, a general size of what I needed for the treads. The website that I used to figure out my stair size, my tread size, was called blocklayer.com. So these treads, the treads I made into boxes. The inside of the box is 8.5 inches and the outside is 14.5 inches. What I did was I made cardboard templates that I laid out on the ground to make sure that I had everything the way I wanted it. And then I customized each cardboard template to fit the inside of this curve. Once I did that, I took an average measurement, figured out what I needed for all of my inside pieces of each tread, and we cut all those out, and then I cut each piece of the staircase to an individual length. So these are not all the same. Each one has its own specific length that we cut to that particular part of the staircase. So now that all my boxes are done, I'm going to temp them all in place. The first one's locked into the deck. I'm going to screw it to the skirting, and then it's going to sit up there, and I'm going to start putting up 2x4s to hold all these temporarily in place. Once I have the shape I like, then I'm going to put a beam underneath all these stairs to hold it up for support. So that's kind of the plan today. It's a little loose, so it might be this, it might be that, I'm not sure. But follow along and see if we can't get part of the staircase built so you can grab my concept. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I'm adding some Simpson metal brackets. These are called LS90Zs. And they're gonna help me keep the staircase together while I temp it up. So as I'm temping up the staircase, these brackets are gonna help me keep the elevation I need of the heights I want. And it's also gonna keep I can move the staircase a little bit this way, and it can be a little more flexible. So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm prepping these. I'm gonna put one up, lock it into place, clamp it, double check it, make sure I'm happy with it, and then go to the next one. Once I get to my first run of where I have to have beams underneath these stairs, obviously I can't run a set of beams just straight. It'll just end up somewhere in the middle of the staircase. I have to do a section of beam, and maybe a section of beam, and maybe one more section of beam towards the bottom, depending on the inside or the outside of the stairs. I might be able to get away with just 2 beams over here. Might have to do 3 beams over here, I'm not sure yet. That's why you mock up a staircase, because you don't really know unless you have it all figured out before. And this one's custom. I've never done one like this before. I've done a few other stairs similar, but not like this one. So the rules and the concepts are similar, but everyone's gonna change a little bit. So all these stair jacks are ripped to the exact same height of 7¼ inches. So except for the very bottom one, there's an inch less. That one's at 6¼ and I took an extra ½ inch off of that so I could put a ½ inch composite shim on it, because it's gonna be sitting on its own base of concrete. So we'll get into that later, but for today, we're just using these LS90Zs to kind of hang and support in between the stairs, and then we're gonna put in some temporary supports as we go to kind of hold the thing together until I can figure out where my beams go. So we have our second jack in. It's temporarily suspended. I have it locked in with our bracket to the next step up. Now I'm gonna level this and I'm gonna shim it up against the wall, and I'm gonna put some fasteners in the wall just to hold it in place. And then I'm gonna temp this side up with a 2x4 so that it holds itself in place. And then I'm gonna keep temping up 2x4s as I come down this side. I'm gonna keep screwing to the wall over here. That's how we're gonna be able to temp up our staircase. So,
Okay.
Okay.
I'm getting a little bit of rubbing.
That's okay. So we have so many of our stair jacks made, we have to start figuring out where our beams are gonna go that are gonna support the bottom of these jacks. So I got the guys over here helping me out, digging down some footings and putting in a couple posts. And I'm gonna start figuring out some of these crazy angles that these beams need to be. I'm actually gonna cut a template out of a 2x4. You can actually see underneath here that I have a 2x4 just kind of temped up just to try to figure out my angle of where the beam needs to be. And Andy's figuring out where the footing needs to go. We use these oversized footing blocks when we're not pouring concrete and we're putting in support like under these stairs. These meet the code better than a standard 12x12. Some inspectors, especially the one that I'm dealing with, they don't like a standard 12x12 footing block. So we are gonna use these bigger oversized ones. We're gonna use a 4x4 to support the beams, but the 4x4 is running all the way through the staircase. We're gonna attach the stair tread to the 4x4, and then we're gonna hang the beam in between the 4x4 and the 4x6 up here, and we're gonna tie it up into this beam up here. Yeah, that part hanging down. So that's what we're doing right now, and then once that's done, I can get these beams installed, drop some hardware on some of this stuff, and then go on to the next step, which will be continuing the staircase all the way to the ground. So this is the second day of us filming the staircase. We had to shoot this over a couple of days, so there might be a gap in the sequence, and that's kind of why we don't have our camera guy here every single day of the week. But so we poured a little foundation for our bottom rise yesterday, and what I did was I installed some half-inch composite. I made the bottom step a 1/2 inch lower on purpose, and then I installed a 1/2 inch piece of composite fencing on the bottom of this stair, so it sits on the concrete, but it'll never rot. Now what I'm doing is I doubled this back plate up so that I can fasten this tread to this one, and then it has a flat back so I can strap it together when I'm done. But for now I'm just temping it up with some screws, and then this thing has something solid to sit on. This thing has something solid to sit on, and then I got 2 posts here. Everything else is temped up. This side of the staircase is completely attached to this wall all the way up, but we're still running a beam underneath each side. So once I get this installed, then I'll figure out how these beams are cut. You can kind of see we've already done 2 of them and how we installed those. So we're gonna do these bottom 2 in a similar fashion.
Deck wraps on, boss.
No, I think Beyonce might take. So our concrete that we poured yesterday is still a little soft. We had to insulate it overnight because it got below freezing. So I'm happy that the concrete didn't freeze, but it's a little tender. If we try to anchor some bolts to it today, it's not gonna be so good. So we gotta let the chemical reaction finish up in this concrete before we go ahead and start fastening concrete anchors and things like that. So we're not gonna be able to finish installing this bottom tread until the concrete gets a little harder. But no worries, I think it's gonna sit just fine. It's placed, it's not gonna move. I have it screwed to this, they're screwed together. So now I can start figuring out the templates for the beam cuts, which are always a little funky, super funky as a matter of fact. They're compound miters on both sides, and this side's really aggressive. This one's a little more relaxed because from one side to the other on a spiral staircase, the degree changes. So the inside of a spiral is steep, and the outside of a spiral is more relaxed, so not as much angle. We probably have about a 35 to 36 degree angle over here, and we have probably a 25 degree angle on this side. That's just the way they work, because you're pitching one side of each tread further out. We have an 8.5 inch base here, and we have 16.5 inches out here. Because my goal was to make these stairs so that I could get away with 2.5 boards per tread. So when I rip this down, this middle board down, I'll be able to get two wedge pieces out of each plank. I'll have a full one, another one with a rip, and then the final one will be ripped into a pie, and then the other piece of that pie I should be able to reuse as another part of another rise.
What's the issue?
Oh, it's not an issue, it's just figuring out angles. Each connection of these beams has to be a compound angle. So I'm cutting jigs to figure out the angle, but it's multiple trips per beam. So I had to make 5 or 6 trips to figure out all the angles for this one beam so it fits perfectly in between these posts. And then I got to do the same thing for the inside of the staircase as well. So it's just a little bit of work. All right. We got to get an angle bit. I'll be right back. We use a lot of 5/16 bits. We use a lot of Fastenmaster timber locks and leisure locks and things like that. Sometimes in the type of lumber we use, pressure treated, if you have a bit that's full width, it doesn't like to drive the screw all the way into the frame. So what we do is we shave the tip of our bits like so they go in a little bit deeper and they get that really good bite. So sometimes a little bit of prevention. I just do this on a belt sander. I run the belt sander and then I just run the drill like that, and then just hit it on the belt sander and it just shaves it down real quick. One side down, one to go.
Yeah, about down the drill.
A little long. I think we're almost there. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting the last beam in place that supports all these stair jacks that we've made for the spiral staircase. They're really funky cuts. They're very time consuming. We have to make a jig for each one. I have to make multiple cuts, probably 7 or 8 cuts per beam to make it fit properly. And I'm on my last fasteners. I've got this side locked in. I just have to jack up the bottom side, add some fasteners there, and then I need to strap everything with some metal. But if I didn't have these beams in here, there wouldn't be a way to support all of the jacks, and this staircase would fail. So we had to come up with a way to do that, and this is my answer to being able to create this curved staircase, is by adding the support needed. It also stayed pretty clean under here, which I was happy about. After that, we're gonna add metal strapping, like you see here, for every rise. There's screws and toe screws and things like that in here as well. So it's just the thing you have to do on the underside for the structure so that we can make this thing as sturdy and as solid as possible. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something about how we frame up a spiral staircase. It's not every day that we do this, so it's very time consuming and challenging, but very rewarding when you see the overall finished shot of it. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked something or you learned a little something today, please click that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell icon every time you want to be notified that we're putting out fresh content. And if you got a minute, go check out Dr. Deck's Masterclass. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.